Welcome to Finance with Factor,
Oops, apparently we're already recording, so here we go.
a place you can come to laugh and learn from local experts who love to discuss everything related to the world of real estate.
Weird passion. It's one that I actually share a little bit, so it makes me a weirdo with you.
Each week, we'll cover a unique topic
Let's talk about condos.
to help you understand the mortgage industry, navigate the home buying process, and grow your business while maintaining a slice of sanity.
Okay, fine. I've been confused by a lot of things over the past few years.
Now that he's climbed safely atop his soapbox, here's your host, a senior loan officer with Movement Mortgage, Jason Factor.
Drew had his auditions the other day. It sounded like they went really well. So he auditioned for Madagascar. He hasn't done Sound of Music yet, but that's coming up. It's going to be pretty stiff, though. So we'll see what he gets. But he seemed happy with his Madagascar audition.
Great, that's good. And yet having a series of auditions is a great thing. If you do, the problem, a great advantage in New York is that you're doing 3 a day. It's like with anything in life, like making however many calls or just reps or whatever. If you do something a lot, you just get comfortable. And a lot of the problem locally is you might audition for 3 things a year. And it's an already tense environment where you're being judged, and it's like a job application and a performance all rolled into one. And if you only do it a couple of times a year, it's a tall order. So we try to when we do audition prep, like we did with Drew, our last session, we just got him reps. I literally I called him in like Drew, and then just tried to mock the exact situation so that it's not so foreign when you actually do it. And having a couple of auditions back to back or back to back to back is a beautiful thing, because it's like, oh, I just did this, as opposed to I did this 4 months ago and here I am.
And for anyone listening who happens to be a realtor or even a loan officer, and you're getting a little PTSD because you just heard, I should introduce who we're speaking with, Kevin Quill, owner of Triple Threat Studios in Hanover, Massachusetts, speaking about reps are the most important thing. And you're like, yeah, but there aren't any reps because I want to sell houses and I need listing appointments to get my reps in. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about today, is that, in my opinion, a listing appointment or a buyer's meeting or home buying seminar or whatever is no different than going in for an audition. You are putting on a performance for your client and trying to present why you are the best option for the role, and they should cast you in the role of their realtor or seller's agent, listing agent, buyer's agent, mortgage lender, whatever. Kevin, I will give him a second to introduce himself, but owner of Triple Threat Studios, like I said, Triple Threat is a place that my son, Drew, who we were just talking about, went to learn about his audition prep for his aspiring career as an actor, singer, songwriter. We don't really know yet. But Kevin was great. And so listening to Drew's takeaways and reading the summaries that Kevin put together for him, I was like, man, this is all super parallel. So I wanted to have him on. And that's why thank you for doing that. But that was a terrible introduction. Perhaps you should introduce yourself and give a little bit of background, even on your experience in New York and things that brought you to where you are today.
Beautiful introduction. Oh yeah. So I'm from I grew up on Cape Cod. Much like Drew, I had 1,000 interests and wasn't quite sure where I was going to put them, and that's sort of why I opened this studio, to flash way forward, to have a lot of hybrid learning. It's actually called Triple Threat because you can hybrid your voice and singing your voice, piano, what have you. But yeah, I grew up on Cape Cod, and I discovered theater. My parents took me to the Phantom of the Opera when I was 4 years old, perhaps to save on babysitting, and they thought, Kevin likes music, it'll be fine. And they created an absolute monster in the process.
The worst investment decision they ever made.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Cost them a lot of money. Turns out theater is a very expensive habit.
Yeah. But it's, yeah. So, yeah, they took me when I was 4, and then I got home and started recreating the Wang Theater on our ceiling, and was dropping dropping buckets from our balcony like the chandelier. It was a whole thing. So a monster was created. Yeah, and so through high school, I just started thinking about careers, and nothing. I mean, I'm lucky that nothing else interested me. In that sense. So it was pretty obvious, and so I went to theater school for a year. I then just realized that going from Hartford to New York was very easy. And so I found myself in New York City every weekend with I got a job singing in a choir that paid me a little bit, and I realized, oh, perhaps I should just go to the city, and I got my own teachers, and I got a bachelor's degree in literature, and got my own arts teachers, and it, it's what seemed like a very meandering path. Wound up I wound up figuring it out, and I think that what your
It
20s can
it
be
sounds
about.
like a meandering path, but it's actually pretty linear in many respects because it when you zoom out far enough, it leads right to where you are. And
Yeah.
it gave you all the experiences, it sounds like, that you needed along the way to do what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd say it's if you follow the I mean, I've followed the S&P now because I'm in my late 30s. Yeah, I'm late to the but um but yeah, I mean, I like to think of life like a stock market ticker. Like I'm not even trying to relate to your finance crowd. It's just the way it's the way I think that. But yeah, like those years might have seemed like a dip, but they wound up on an overall trend up.
Yep.
So not every door I knocked on wound up bearing any fruit, but it led to so many next ones.
And I
And
imagine
yeah,
that's
so
what you teach your students as well, particularly when
yeah,
it comes to practicing and auditioning.
yeah, because I try to just let all doors, if they're interested in something, explore it, because that worked out for me. And anything successful I've done has been a result of a lot of trial and error. And I would have teachers tell me to not do this, not do that, only do this, don't waste time with that. And it turns out, just by following my enthusiasm, it it in a roundabout way led me where I needed to be.
I
So
had a
that was good.
conversation with someone yesterday, someone who was thinking about going full-time into lending, and he's currently part-time and he was thinking about diving in full-time, and I said, "You just be your authentic self and do whatever you think is right and do it. If you do it without a safety net, you'll figure it out, right? Like you'll knock on enough doors, you'll get enough reps and you'll figure it out because you're good at what you do."
Yeah, it's terrific advice. And
And
it sounds like it's a cliche maybe, but for good reason, because like I wish, like when I teach middle schoolers, like I look at them worrying about things and what kids their age think, and I'm just like, because I know on the other end, like as soon as you graduate, no one cares. It doesn't matter if you're cool. Nothing.
I have this
All of this just
conversation.
gets washed away.
Well,
So I just think this, like, yeah, like and I think back to my middle school self. If I had just been me and leaned into it, people would have actually liked me better than whatever my idea of cool was. So that's a little bit of a
I have this conversation all the time because like the other day, one of the kids wouldn't get out of the car because of what he was wearing. And I was like, nobody cares what you're wearing. Like the world doesn't revolve around what shoes you're wearing. Just get out of the car.
right.
But it's hard to see in that moment. And I would say the exception would be when you're auditioning, because everything that you do in that audition is going to be critiqued from the moment you walk in the door. Just like if you're a realtor and you are going in for a listing appointment and you're going to try to convince this person that you should list their house, like it feels like every movement, everything you wear, the way you act, where you look, it's all going to impact, at least subconsciously, some of the impressions that you make. Can you speak to how, like, what are some of the basics of auditioning that you go through with your students, um, from entry to close? Like, what are
Yeah.
some of the
So
things and tips that you tend to give?
so I had a thought on what you just said though, which is it's absolutely true. I would say there's two elements to what you said. That yes, there's two categories. There's things that you do want to tailor with some strategy, but you also but showing your own personality is, and I maybe this applies a little bit less in your world, because it's not about you, where like you're selling your personality to casting, so you really actually want to draw out who you are as a human being, because that's part of the job.
Yeah,
um
I agree.
um
And as soon as you walk out of that door and they're thinking of considering you, what are they going to do? They're going to go online and look you up. They're going to look at your resume, and if what they saw doesn't match what they find, now they're not sure.
Right. So yeah, so one major thing that I teach is, and I went over this with Drew, and it was kind of a funny, I had a funny thought about him I might share with you or share after. But because so when I think everyone who's interested in being an actor should sit in an audition room and be the reader, or be an intern, or just ask if you can watch, or be the coffee boy, whatever, because you see it through their eyes and you're like, oh my gosh, I say that, oh my god, don't do that. Like because I've like playing auditions as an accompanist in New York, I watched person after person and they're like, yeah, so I had a cold 4 days ago, and so and it's like, dude, they wouldn't have noticed or cared. You're correcting this invented potential problem. Just did you? Because what did you just tell them? You just told them, I'm insecure. I'm annoying. I don't have. I don't see the big picture. I'm more self-involved than project involved. You're subcommunicating something not good. But like I sit there as the accompanist, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, why are you saying that? It's just the people that are the most successful are just chill, say like they act like a human, because like casting sees it, so many people. And if in casting is deciding not just if you're right for the role, they're going to spend a lot of hours with you. They're going to spend dozens and dozens, maybe 100 hours with you, and they're whether they know it or not, deciding, do I want to spend 100 hours with this person or not? And so yeah, I always say, so there's a really practical audition thing I say that I went over with your son, was that,
Yeah.
and and in New York people make this mistake a lot, which is they get comfortable at the end and think that that's the time to get their chatting in. Casting's brain is, you finished your audition, their brain is on the next person, and that's when people decide it's time to chit chat. And they're just like, oh, haha, okay, you get a cool bye. Um, and then 10 out of 10 people, when they walked in the room, casting says, hey, how are you? And 10 out of 10 people say, good, how are you? And they had their chance to
Right there to make
chit
that
chat,
first
because that's the
impression and
time to do it
be human.
in casting's brain.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing with Drew, he's a sweetheart and a quiet kid, and I was trying to get him to, you can cut this out if he's
Which is funny because at
if
home
it's,
we're constantly asking him to please use an inside voice and
oh
speak at a
really,
normal volume.
oh
Or
that's so
because
funny.
it's not speak, it's constantly sing, right? So
Yeah, but I was saying, like,
every
well, if
word is
you're
a
a
song that
quiet guy,
interrupts your thought.
you're showing your authentic self by just being a quiet guy. So I guess
Yeah,
maybe that's maybe I didn't. So I realized, all right, maybe I don't need to push them to like talk their ear off if that's not who you're going to be anyway.
sure.
But
But that's a good
that's
valuable point there too, right? Like again, getting back to being your authentic self and putting something that they're gonna see,
yeah,
feel, and interact with
right,
on stage.
right. So if it's an appointment for you, um, how important is be like having your real personality come through versus what works in terms of closing? Because I
Both,
imagine
right? I mean,
the metrics are different, whereas
they
it's a
they
completely
are and they aren't.
personality.
Like
Yeah, go ahead.
what's different is that, in my opinion, unlike an actor or a singer or something like that, I don't believe in the idea that there is a loan officer or a realtor or an attorney who is so talented that they will blow the competition away and that no one else can match their sheer talent and volume alone, right? Like that to me is nonsense. There's no bank that has a product that is so good everyone is using them. There's no realtor who has access to data and analyzes it with such precision that nobody else should use any other realtor. Like that, to me, that's not the way the business works. So it
Right.
is very much about like, how do we make this human connection and show, yes, we have competence and experience, but realistically, a personality that people actually are willing to work with, and that we can, in my opinion, listen, which is the thing that so many people in the real estate business don't do well enough, is like sit back and listen and say, what do you need? Right? Like, what are your goals? And how do we match the financing or your sale to pair with that? And that's the mistake a lot of people make. And I imagine some of those types of questions. What are some of the types of questions that you encourage someone when they go on stage for an audition to ask of the directors? Like, what can we get to kind of
that's a
like
really
what's
good
the
idea. It's
strategy
a
in reflecting back on them?
right. Well, I was just studying I was watching a video about interviewing and I mean, you're supposed to and just asking question I mean, well, as someone who's giving interviews now because I'm hiring teachers, I mean, if someone asked me about what our goals are, like it's like, oh my god, I would love to talk about that, and it demonstrates that it's someone again like is seeing the big picture, sort of like you were just saying, if they listened more. A lot of success seems to be counterintuitive. Whatever our first instinct is, like maybe the next second or third instinct is the one that's going to have a better perspective for the whole, because as human beings we're not programmed to necessarily see the whole all the time. And so yeah, I mean, you could ask, what style of what type of director are you? Do you like to set everything within an inch of its life and then work within it, or do you like to sort of work more organically and see where we end up? Do we learn the music all in the first couple of days, and then, or do we learn it song by song, or
How do
just
you
the
envision
whole
this character,
general?
right? Like we've been to so many plays where they go for
Right.
comedic over serious and vice versa. I think so much of it is learning what the end user really wants out of it. And like, where do they
Yeah.
see
What
it
do they
going so
care?
that you
What do
can
they
put
care?
together
Yeah.
your presentation to match what they want their expectations to be.
Yeah. And just frankly, if you just can get this works in life, I suppose, if you just get people to talk about things they care about, they're going to like you because they're going
So
to
be
associate something they enjoy talking about with you. Like, yeah, like you just said with listening, like, and when I go to an event with theater people who love to talk about themselves, I don't talk about myself. I just say, oh, what are you working on? And just let them go and listen. And like, I don't need to talk about I don't really,
when
yeah,
I was before I got into to lending, I worked in fundraising, and one of the tricks was just to get them talking. And the rule was we wanted to speak less than 25% of the time when you're in
beautiful.
a meeting with a client and or a prospective donor. And the reason was because I read some book somewhere that you retain it was like you retain 85% of what you say and 10% of what they say. So in a conversation,
Yeah.
how many times have you been in a conversation with someone, you're like, you said this, and they're like, I didn't say that, you said that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we project we project ourselves into the conversation so much more. So again, if you're in a listing appointment and you're speaking with the client and they talk about themselves 50 to 75% of the time and what they want, they walk out of there thinking, I had a great conversation with that person. Meanwhile, you're like, I got all the notes I need to hit all the notes they want to hear.
Yeah, and it just feels right. It just feels good to talk about things you care about. And so, yeah, just like you said, listening and asking questions. That's, yeah, like, and I hadn't even, right. And then people don't do that in auditions nearly enough. And I think it would be like, oh, because if it, because if as an actor, you can be almost part of the like if you're taking on a role, when I've done my best roles, like I thought of myself as, I didn't actually behave this way, but I studied the character in the play as though I was on the creative staff, and And when I've just done a role and like hit my marks and did what I was supposed to do, it has never been as good as when I'm like fully part of the world of it. And so yeah, so if I was a actor, if I was a director and the actor asked me a question about where they see something going, and they're like, oh, like they could be on this team, like they're on our team, like yeah, like let's steer the ship together. That'd be a great strategy.
And that's, I mean, that's the way, at least not a financial advisor. I'm not even allowed to play one on the internet or on podcasts, but so listen to that part, compliance. But the point
To
is,
repeat, he is not. Yeah.
I am not a financial advisor, nor can I speak about finance in any meaningful way and give you advice. But the reality is, when I go into those appointments, I am coming in with that kind of perspective of like, let's hear what your goals are and try to match that. And I think that parallels very well with a good audition, right? And the same thing is true of a realtor. Like, why are you selling is probably the most important question you can ask. What are your timelines? Like, I know every realtor does that, but are you really listening and then catering your presentation to that answer and your strategies to that answer? In the same way, I would imagine if they say we're looking for this and you go and you give them something else, it's just a quick check off the list and then moving on to the next call.
Yeah. And like you said, just being someone they are comfortable with. Yeah.
How do you teach your students to help them feel comfortable beyond asking questions? So far we have be yourself, ask questions. What are some of the other tips that you give to make sure that that entrance hits the right note right from the time you walk on stage?
Yeah. So there's repetitions in general. Just on the literal sense of having a bunch of other auditions surrounding it. That would be a great strategy to do it, so it's not this weird thing. It
And if you don't
You know,
have those, I imagine
if you're
even just
performing
pretending.
every day. I'm sorry.
I said, if you don't have those, like, hey, I haven't had a listing in 3 months. I'm about to go
Yeah,
on my first listing
you could
call, or
create it
just create it, right? Role play it.
yeah, in piano we have a it's called what do we call it? I just learned this concept. You basically, when you're going to have a piano performance, you create even more stressful situations so you've already stressed. It's like intentional stress training, where you've already gone through it, so nothing that comes at you could make you even slightly phased. I had a performance I was very worried about few years ago, because of the locale, and it was very exposed, and my brain was in not a good place. So I scheduled a recital of very difficult classical music that I wasn't that prepared for in front of in front of people with like master's degrees, and it was terrifying and awful. But guess who did not care about their performance? The actual performance I needed, the professional one I was going for. I was It worked like a charm. So yeah, but in terms of auditions, yeah, you can just reps. You, you role play it, do it at home, do it in places that you're going to be uncomfortable. Do what you can be uncomfortable. You can be uncomfortable in front of casting, or you can be uncomfortable in front of your family that morning. Like, take your pick. Who would you? So you're gonna kind of have to just charge into one of them. Other more practical ones that Drew and I did. There's just to loosen yourself up in the moment. We did I Am Superman, where you just jump and just scream, I am Superman. I'm super loan officer. I can I can book 12 appointments. I can close 12 deals a day because I'm Superman. And you just jump and say positive and your body is just you're a completely different calm person after you do that. So that's one. Or you can just do something, you can just do it really silly in front of your family that morning. You could find a space and just there's a very weird one where you kick and scream and do like a primal moan by yourself, and it just gets your body out of this state of tension. You cannot audition well from a place of tension. So if I were to sum
You'll
up this
turtle
answer and
into yourself.
everything, whatever it takes to get you loose. Just talk to people that morning. If you're getting a coffee, talk to the barista. So your first conversation isn't with casting, and say, "Oh, I'm good. How are you?"
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
don't sit there like, and that could be easy, right? You take a morning casting call or a morning listing appointment, or you schedule an early call, and the first real human interaction you have after getting in your car in silence is to is to step up
yeah,
on stage and perform, essentially, or step into the
yeah.
boardroom and perform. That's
Talk to the
awful.
Cumbies guy. Just say make some dumb off comment to someone. Right before I do piano bar, I try to say like, I try to chat like 5 people up on my way to the venue, because I'm about to talk to 100 people over a microphone. So I prefer I prefer that it not be my first conversation of the day either.
It comes off because when you're doing dueling pianos or piano bar or whatever, I mean, I've seen you do it. You're fun, you're engaging, you're funny, and like all of that comes off on stage. And it's funny because when I meet you, you're still all those things, but you're so much more reserved.
Yeah, there's a lot of I had a band teacher who he could talk to 100 kids easy, and then you got in his office one-on-one, and it was a super uncomfortable. But no, but it's interesting. Yeah, a lot in entertainment world. There's a lot of extroverted introverts. I couldn't tell
That's
you
how I
why.
would describe myself. I would
Yeah,
describe myself the same way. Like I always say I'm much better on a stage or a panel than I am even in a small group. Like
yeah.
I will be quiet in a small group.
Are you qualified for psychoanalysis too? Because we could figure out why we're like this too.
Not qualified for anything.
Okay.
It's
Also, no, not a licensed therapist. Jason Factor, not a licensed therapist.
not licensed. I am licensed as a loan officer, and that
You
is
are
it.
licensed, just not. Yeah,
Um, if people have kids or adults that are training to be actors, musicians, or just having fun and learning an instrument, um, what is a way that they can get in touch with Triple Threat and get in touch with you?
yeah. Go to triplethreatstudio.co and you can do a trial lesson. Or you can email me at kevin@triplethreatstudio.co. And yeah, we're gearing up for it. We just hired 2 new teachers, which is very exciting. We're doing 6 open mic showcase recitals. We have a Halloween themed open mic kids piano bar coming up on, I believe, October 23rd. I have to look at that. We just set it in. So yeah, come to one of our events. First of all, we're going to do them every 2 months.
He's right
You
on
were at
53,
our
super easy to
inaugural.
find.
What's that?
He's right on 53, so right off Route 3. He's super easy to find. My kids have had awesome times at the piano bars. My oldest, Drew, had a great experience learning from Kevin. So if the most important thing is reps, go get them in a safe space with Kevin, or an unsafe space. He'll make you feel super uncomfortable if that's what you need. uh, but go get the reps and have some fun. I couldn't speak highly enough and recommend him enough as a resource. Or if you just have questions about your kids getting into acting and performing and music, he's an awesome person to reach out to. So thank you for doing this. Thanks for taking good care of my kids. And I
Thank you.
definitely look forward to seeing you at a future piano bar.
Always fun talking to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Finance with Factor. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Then if you really like us, open another podcast app. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or really wherever else you enjoy podcasts. Search Finance with Factor and do it again. The more places you like, share, and follow helps our ratings. But that can be our little secret. Have a question about today's episode or an idea for an upcoming episode? Post a comment. For more content, follow Jason Factor on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Finance with Factor. All content discussed on Finance with Factor is self-published by Jason Factor, Senior Loan Officer, NMLS number 1401985. All rates, guidelines, and advice shared on this episode is subject to change. To contact Jason directly or for a full set of disclosures, visit his website at jasonfactor.com.
Jason Fector, NMLS number 1401985. Movement Mortgage Supports Equal Housing Opportunity. NMLS number 39179. NMLS, consumeraccess.org.